What's going on, Jerome's? How we living? So first off, we love the Passtronaut era. Like it was a lot of fun. Josh Dobbs coming in with the big time win against the Falcons. Oh, you done effed up. You done effed up. Sipping on the Gatorade. You know what time it is. And Dobbs beating the Falcons and the huge come from behind win. It was great. It was literally awesome. And Dobbs winning NFC Offensive Player of the Week was fantastic. He looked great the first half of the Saints game as well. The first half. But then everything sort of went downhill from there. Now, with Nick Mullins starting on Saturday against the Bengals, which is the right call, by the way, the question is, why did things not work out? So here are 9 reasons why the Passtronaut was grounded and lost in space. Number 1, he's Josh Dobbs. Dobbs had an opportunity where he could have risen up. He could have established himself. He could have pulled a Rich Gannon, where a career journeyman backup all of a sudden gets things together. Could have been a Jim Plunkett, but it didn't quite work out. But Dobbs, 4th-round pick, 7 teams in 7 seasons, and I do think that Josh Dobbs is a perfectly capable, perfectly fine, high-end backup quarterback, but I don't know. Is he the guy? Nah. He could have been, but he certainly wasn't. Next up, number 2, the Kareem Jackson hit. Now, I do firmly blame this hit early on in the Broncos game as the turning point, where, Dobbs was very good in the Falcons game. He was very good in the first half of the Saints game. Second half, whatever, that was more on play calling and they couldn't move the friggin' ball. But after Kareem Jackson laid this hit on Josh Dobbs, he seemed timid. He seemed very skittish, whereas he was confident and he was just slanging it out there earlier. So this dirty hit from dirty-ass Kareem Jackson with stupid-ass Sean Payton and the dirty Broncos, I think that it was a turning point. And Dobbs went into the concussion tent after this hit, and I just don't think that he was completely right after this game and into the Broncos game and even into the Raiders game. Next up, reason number 3, teams caught up to him. So against the Falcons, they had zero goose egg, D'Angelo Russell tape on Josh Dobbs because they just picked him up a couple days ahead of it with the at the trade deadline, and the Saints had zero tape on him as well. But you saw the Broncos and Vance Joseph, Vance Refrigeration, the Bears at and then of course the Raiders and Patrick Graham, like they had caught up to him, and they had kept him in the pocket, which was his number 1 asset, which he didn't use, by the way. But yeah, teams just we compared it at the time to, it's like when a hitter comes up from the minor leagues and starts off really hot, and then all of a sudden, as games go along, as pitchers get more tape on him, they're able to adjust and attack his weaknesses, and that's exactly what happened with Josh Dobbs. Number 4, Kevin O'Connell didn't adjust enough. Now, we give O'Connell and Phillips a bit of a pass because it's really tough. It's extremely tough to completely revamp your offense midseason. Even with the bye week, should there have been a couple more changes? Yes, but going from a pocket passer playbook where you have Kirk Cousins, where you have Nick Mullins, where you have Jaron Hall, going from that all of a sudden to, I don't know, it would have been more ideal to run like the Lamar Jackson offense or maybe like the Kyler Murray offense. Yes. That would have made sense, but they would have had to overhaul everything, and not only for the quarterback, but for the entire team, especially the blocking up front. So I understand why it didn't happen, and also the Vikings almost fumbling the exchange at the mesh point of a read option against the Raiders. That's something that you got to have in the offseason and in training camp. Next up, number 5. Dobbs got in his own head. Now, I actually believe, Josh Dobbs, he's a rocket scientist, but he's human. Like he saw this as a golden opportunity, and he's just like, oh, I can't screw this up. This is my chance to get paid. And if Josh Dobbs played phenomenal the rest of the way, like there was a decent shot that maybe he would find himself a major payday, whether here or somewhere else. I actually still think that he is going to get like a decent backup or bridge quarterback money. But I think Dobbs got in his own head, and especially after the Jackson hit, and especially after the hospital ball that put Justin Jefferson out of the game and literally into the hospital, I think Dobbs just sort of turtled and just sort of was just like, oh, don't make a mistake. And when you play not to make a mistake, that's when you make mistakes. That's what happens, man. Next up, number 6. Could not throw from the pocket. So if teams were going to keep him in the pocket, which the Broncos and the Bears and the Raiders certainly did, you got to be able to throw darts from the pocket, and he just didn't have that accuracy, and it just seemed like he was a half step slow. There was no rhythm. Of course, he was just still learning his teammates' names, still learning this offense, and against the Falcons and the Saints, he succeeded because you're playing schoolyard, backyard, turkey bowl football. Just see it, throw it, as opposed to throwing guys open, which you have to do in the National Football League. And just placement was not there. And yeah, like he certainly wasn't helped by a number of drops, but a couple of those drops could be put on poor placement or poor timing as well. Next up, number 7, refused to run. Tramps like us, baby, were born to run. He didn't. Now, part of it is defenses were corralling him and keeping him in the pocket, but a lot of it, when Josh Dobbs would break the pocket, again, we initially liked that he would keep looking downfield to try and keep the play alive, but at a certain point, just tuck it and run. Get the first down, live to fight another day, and then go from there. His rushing ability is what made him dangerous in the Falcons and the Saints game. But 30 catches for $163 and 3 touchdowns. But against the Bears, the Broncos, and the Raiders, it's almost like he wanted to prove that he was a pocket passer. Again, go back into his own head where it's like, hey, running quarterbacks, sort of a dime a dozen, but I need to prove that I can throw from the pocket. I need to prove that I can make plays downfield. I need to prove this, that, or the other thing so I can get paid. It's possible. It's possible, man. But it's so frustrating that O'Connell didn't cater the offense to him running. The defense took it away, and when he had opportunities, he just refused to run. He just didn't. Next up, number 8, turnovers. So 4 fumbles. Not great, as well as 6 interceptions over 5 games. Now, you could say that half of those 4 interceptions against the Bears were off deflections, but just looking at his accuracy, like basically he probably should have thrown a pick 6 in every single game that he started, and you just can't have that. And with the defense playing the way that it is, the offense was relatively inert. The margin for error was very small, very minuscule, as you saw in the Raiders game, where, hey, Nick Mullins put together one long drive where he got the ball out quick. He got the ball to the playmakers accurately, got out on time, and guess what? One field goal drive is the winner. It's crazy. But yeah, turnovers been a hallmark of this season. And no, Josh Dobbs is not the only guy who's had turnovers this year, but he certainly became the problem over the last couple games. Lastly, number 9, lack of pocket awareness. And Vikings fans have been champing at the bit for a long time, but hey, let's just have a mobile quarterback and everything will be copacetic, right? But Dobbs is mobile, yes, but also he refused to run, and also him in the pocket, it wasn't great. Now, the Vikings offensive line throughout most of the season has, analytics-wise, has been hailed as one of the best in the NFL. But last couple of weeks, not so much. They've gotten shelled against the Broncos, the Bears, and the Raiders. And now 70 pressures and 13 sacks during Josh Dobbs' tenure with the Vikings. I would actually say that more than a third of the pressures and probably half the sacks are on him. Where, the offensive line, if they give you 4 seconds, like, you should be all right. But the fact that Dobbs was always just a half second, half hitch slow, it just wasn't good. And it sort of compounded the issue with the offensive line. So I actually do think that the O-line, watch the O-line's pressure and sack numbers magically get better under Mullins, because Mullins is going to get the F out of the football, or get the football, the F out of his hand. Something like that, man. But either way, it was a lot of fun. Like, it was like Tebow mania. It was like Linsanity. But it's over. It's past. And I do think that Mullins gives the Vikings the better chance to win going forward. Or Jaron Hall. But that's it. Why the Passtronaut was grounded? 9 reasons. 9. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skol. Production value.